outset of my talk, I promised to you that we would play Guess Who, right? So for playing Guess Who, we need some characters. So I prepared some characters for today. So the first one is me, Anna. Then we have Austin, Diego, Fernando, Guillaume. I stress on the fact that any resemblance to actual person is purely coincidental. Jeff, Joel, Lina. Why are you sad, Lina? Margherita, Mario, Michaela, Nathan, Ray, Vanessa, Vladimir, and Will. Okay, sorry, I couldn't put all of you, but okay. So I quickly remind you the rule of this game. So this is a two-players game where each one of the players choose a hidden character, and then the goal of the other is to recover to guess that character. Okay, and you have to ask yes or no questions. Maybe like, does your character wear a hat? Does your character have sunglasses? And so on. So we are going to play one round of this game, but we are going to add a twist. The twist is that actually each one of the players can lie at most one time. So this means that actually you can be honest and not decide to do not lie, but if you lie, you can lie at most one question. And I will be one of the players, and I would like a second player among you. So I will be the first player, or you know, who wants to play against me?
Sure.
What's your name?
Michael?
Michael. Written like that?
Yep.
Okay, so actually it's going to ask questions, but every one of you is playing together with Michael for guessing the character that I choose. Okay? And you have a little paper in front of you in which you can finally put the name of your character. And you don't have any question to ask any question about the name, okay? These names are just for, you know, identify the character at the end. Do you want to start or do you want me to start?
Wait, should I select the character to be like mine? Or,
Sorry?
Who's choosing the character?
First you choose a character, sorry.
Without telling me.
We both choose a character, you don't say the character, you just choose your character.
Also against
One
her.
are good.
So we're guessing her character.
We're guessing her character.
Wait,
And if she leaves your room, we can all decide together.
Yeah.
His.
You want to decide together? And then, but one has to, you know.
I'll let you know when we're.
Yes.
okay, North.
We're gonna play. She has one character.
How
And
can
then
we all have different characters?
No, we have one.
No.
That's why she.
We are all Michael, and we are trying to figure out who we're
Okay,
going
I-
to.
Thank you. That was good.
Okay,
What
let's make it
do you
fair.
want to be? So that
I don't know. I'll let you guys help.
Real life?
I can be Lena, for example.
I like you, no? Sheila?
No, I think
I
I
like
can.
you. I think a lot of
I can be
things.
Lena, for example.
Oh, so maybe that's not a good idea, because then we'll answer yes to a lot of questions.
Identify.
So maybe Anna, that would be like,
So I guess you have to be truthful.
I mean, if they have like, are we with like,
we can be Margarita, she only has like a little flower,
It
and she's sad.
Could you?
it doesn't really matter, you just have to choose one character.
Yeah, but if we're gonna answer questions and you say yes to all, or no.
But if you say no to all of them, I
Yeah,
say yes. So
exactly.
we need to pick somebody with in between, like Nathan.
Yeah.
Like Nathan.
We'll take Nathan. We'll take Nathan.
Yeah.
okay, I guess.
Alright, so I'm gonna go there. Okay, I'm sorry.
And then you got to do the answers, because you're the one who will choose when you lie.
Ah, true.
Okay.
You can't answer all of this at the time.
Okay, so now just one of you has to answer to my questions, okay? And you can lie at most one time. And you can ask me questions, okay? Do you want me to start or do you want to start to ask questions?
I guess I'll start by asking you, like what kind of like questions, like can
Yes or no questions. So I can only answer yes or no.
So like I could like ask like about multiple attributes at once, or
No,
only
just
one?
one.
One question.
One question. Yes or no I can answer.
Do you have blue skin?
Blue skin? No. So I'm asking, is your character yellow? Yes or no?
Let me see.
I thought it was a different
Yes.
question. Yes? You can like at most one time, otherwise then I will fail, okay? Your time, your question. Probably, you know, they're also older you.
Are you
know.
happy?
Am I happy? Yes, I'm happy. Okay, so does your character wear glasses?
No.
Okay, your turn. You can probably also, you know, ask questions to me so that in any case, you know, there are a finite number of questions that you can ask. Any other question you want to ask me, the audience? It's the same, anyway, I have to answer.
Does it wear hats?
Does it wear a hat? No. So my question is, does it wear a hat too?
Copycat.
Does it wear a hat?
Yes.
Other question to me?
Flower on the head?
No.
Wow.
Maybe we should see if we can like use the information we have right now to narrow down like which character it could be. I don't know.
So it is my time for asking questions actually. So does your character have a mustache?
No.
No. Other questions to me?
Have you lied so far?
What?
Have you lied so far?
No, it has to be about
Wait,
the character.
let's see if we can narrow it down so far. Let's see if we can narrow it down. I want to see if I can like use the information we have so far to figure out which like who.
You can write your character down, but let's ask all the questions and then.
Yeah, just keep asking questions first.
Okay. Okay then.
Right.
Other questions?
Does it have a bow tie?
Bow tie? Yes.
I thought it was a tongue.
My question is the same. Does it have a bow tie?
No.
Other questions?
Does it have a mustache?
Mustache? No. And does he have a flower?
No.
No.
Is he wearing glasses?
Glasses?
She or they?
Yes. And my last question is he sad?
Oh, I think we might have might have gotten them mixed up, or maybe I got confused. I don't know.
Is he sad?
Oh no, like I meant the labeling thing.
Yeah, because you start writing his stuff on yours and
It's okay, whatever.
What happened?
You started putting them on the wrong levels.
Oh, really?
That's the question that Michael asked.
Yeah, that's
And
the
now
Yeah,
she's
it's
asking.
okay,
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, it's okay.
Oh no, that's not what I was saying.
Everything's fine. So
Is it sad?
is it
It's sad.
Wait, for the Michael
Michael, is it
row,
sad?
is
Sad
that
or
is
not?
that the questions that I'm asking or like?
Yeah, it's the question you're asking.
Yeah, yeah.
Those are your questions.
Yes. Those are your questions and those are her
Is he
questions.
sad or not? Is he sad?
They're happy.
So,
No,
not
he's
sad.
not sad, no.
Okay, now please, Guillaume, you take a timer. We have 1 minute and a half for guessing the character. You write it down. Okay?
Oh, shoot.
Ray. Where's Ray? Is Ray here? Yeah, no, it's not here. He's there.
Okay, so
You write it on the piece of paper.
I already figured out who one of them was.
Oh, I get your question
Down
now.
there. Next to this person.
So the things I described your character are in the bottom row.
Well, just for 1 minute and a half for guessing and then.
The question is.
No, I'm not asking about like your,
On the bottom of
Which
the
one is
questions
which?
we asked.
Yes, this is your question and the answer to your question.
So
Okay.
that's your character. We're
Yes,
describing.
yes.
yeah, that's what I was asking.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, okay, get
So
it.
you can ask me questions back and forth. So we know one of these characters that we got at random is false.
Why is it that we're I'm very. It ever looks really. Here's Will.
Well,
Why are you
that's
crying?
very-
Why are you sad?
No, Austin's smiling, I think.
Are you happy or are you mad?
I'm really happy.
Okay, but Ray's character looks exactly like Ray.
It's
It
okay.
looks exactly like him.
So does Diego.
It's a different
You said particularly?
No, no.
Umbrella.
Literally.
Okay, I have my answer.
Oh, I see what
And the time's over.
Time's over. Can you please put up your let me
I
see?
didn't have enough time to create the grid.
Let me write down.
Can you see? What did you answer?
I was
Ray for both.
I was trying to figure out like which row was
It'll
which,
be yellow and.
and that took a bit of
So what
time.
is your answer?
Ray.
Jeff.
Jeff.
Aw.
Well,
I think it's me.
okay. So your character is Nathan,
Yeah.
and actually you were lying on the glasses. Is it true?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Cool.
I mean, you can
I'm so happy it is. Okay. And my character
just made a
was
grid.
Marian because
It's like.
that and I lied, I think, on the flowers. Okay? So, excellent. So, now that
No, I just keep shooting.
we played this game, let's try to analyze that. So, imagine that you were not to answer, to lie, okay? How many questions, at least, I will need to ask in order to uniquely identify your character, if I wasn't able to lie?
Oh, there's 16.
At least.
So at least 4? No, at least 5?
So there are 16 characters, right? So each question will give an answer yes or no.
Yeah.
So one question will identify 2 characters, 2 questions, 4 characters, 3 questions, 8 characters, and 4 questions, at most 16 characters. So the minimum number of questions to uniquely identify the character is 4.
Without one.
Okay?
Yeah.
And actually we can understand, we can write down what are these questions. So I'm just putting in a different order. So I will write before, does it have a hat? Does it have a bow tie? Does it have a flower? And is it sad?
Oh wait. Oh, half of them have each characteristic.
And now just give me a minute for organizing all this. Meanwhile, you can gossip on the characters, okay?
Wait, Anna,
Yes.
you lied twice.
Oh.
Marianne?
Oh, really?
Yeah, you said glasses no and hat yes.
Oh my God, I'm sorry then.
Oh, we had no chance of winning
But
that.
is it
No,
true?
we didn't.
It's
Yeah.
my.
No, yes, glasses, yes, I'm sorry.
No, you're on top, aren't you?
No, I'm here.
Her answers are down there.
Check again, please, because I don't want to be, a not fair play player.
Yeah,
Okay.
you're gonna be a liar, but.
Those are the questions, yeah, instead of the one.
How are you arranging them?
I don't know.
We'll find out.
I mean, I would arrange them by like color first.
She only lied once.
She has a plan in mind, probably.
It will be explained
She's
all
just
in
mixing them up
due
and
time.
taking it.
Yeah, just a moment. Okay.
She's doing hat with flower on the bottom right, that's fine.
Okay.
I see what you're doing.
Oh, yes.
You're gonna sort us into quadrants and then stuff.
Okay, I should be right this way. Okay, so actually, the answer to these questions will give me a sequence of bits. I can transform my yes into a 1 and my no into a 0, right? So the sequence of this answer corresponds to a sequence of bits here. And I can associate to each one of these characters this sequence of 4 bits. So for example, I don't have a hat, I don't have a bow tie, I do not have a flower, and I am not sad. I'm happy. And then I can keep going like that. So Ray doesn't have a hat, doesn't have a bow tie, doesn't have flower, but he's sad. I'm sorry, Ray. So, and so on, okay?
Very, very fitting.
Right. This is very beautiful.
But this only works if you only have the 4
Wait,
No, we
sorry.
have a,
options.
And then we're gonna have
there's a
the,
mustache thing to distract us.
Is it what?
The mustache thing. It's not an option.
oh, and
Oh,
neither,
mustache.
and neither is the skin either.
And they go over the skin, that's good.
Yeah, so she's got 6 things on her.
Okay.
1, 2,
Okay,
3,
so
4, 5, 6. Yeah, there's 6 things.
So they cut it, I would have thought, I mean,
So-
color skin is
Okay.
very important to identify.
So you can see that actually these answers, the answer to the question, you uniquely identify the characters in this matrix in some sense. Because actually asking whether my character is a hat or not is asking, here's my character here. And what about the bow tie? Saying, here's my character here or here. And what about the flower? Is my character here? And instead, is my character here. With that, you uniquely identify the position of your character in the matrix, okay? And now, what happens if I lie? If I lie, imagine that,
One digit is off.
Right.
Yeah.
imagine that I had chosen Mariam, okay? Now, with 4 questions, I cannot guess anymore your character if you were lying, because probably you lie in the first bit, and so you will get 1, 1, 1, 0, which is actually this one. Or probably in the last bit, and you would get 0, 1, 1, 1. And so I would get Vladimir. And I have no way of recovering your lie with only 4 questions. That's why I need to ask more questions. Somehow I'm asking redundant questions. Okay? And these questions are, you did already that, so yellow. And I'm just checking because I need a particular order for these glasses and mustaches.
Oh, shoot. 7 things.
And what is interesting is that the answers to this question are not random at all in this game. So they completely depend to the previous answers. So, for example, let me try to explain this. So I will give a number here. So this is my A1, this is my A2, this is my A3, A4, A5, A6, and A7. And then let me draw this picture. So these 3 circles, they create here 4 intersections, and I'm going to put A1 here, A2 here, A3 here, and A4 here. And I'm going to say that depending, on the value of this, A5, A6, and A7, they are completely determined. So, in particular, for example, what has to be A5? So A5 is to be 0, 1 in order to make the sum in this circle even, okay? So I want that the sum there, A1 plus A4 plus A2 plus A5 is even, or we say, so even, or we say it's congruent to 0 modulo 2, okay? So whenever I have my 3 bits here, I5 is completely identified. The same for A6 and A7, okay? So in this case, we are looking to another circle. And A2 plus A3 plus A4 plus A7 has to be even. So let's see if this works. For example, let's take Vanessa. Okay? So, Vanessa, she is a 0, 0, 1, 0, okay? So the first here is 0, and then A2 is 0, A3 is 0, and A4, no, A3 is 1, and A4 is 0. So what should I put in A5 in order to get an even? So here I should put 0, here I should put 1, right? And then what about A7?
1.
1. So actually I'm saying that she's not yellow and she's not yellow. She wears glasses and she wears glasses and she has mustaches. And in this way you're actually, the other three characteristics are not random but they depend on the first 4. You can check this on all that. So this is because these examples, these sets of characters or the set of here, if you complete, will be 0, 0, 0, 0, and etc. This will be 1, 1, 1. The set of this sequence of 7 bits now, it is what is called an Hamming code. And actually, this talk is about coding theory. Okay, so I'm going to move towards to explain before. We leave for a moment this game, and I'm going to go into what is about coding theory. So coding theory is about code. What is a code? A code is a set of rules for transforming information into another form or representation which is easier. So in math, we would say that a code is a map between two finite sets, S and T, okay? S and T, finite.
I'm a little sick, so you probably
We also want that this is
I'm a little
injective.
sick, so you shouldn't touch me.
And so I take an element of S and associate an element of T, and this process is called encoding. And the reverse process of going from T back to S is called decoding. So you are very familiar with codes in the everyday life. For example, the language is a code. The fact of calling this a marker is a code. The fact of saying that this is a glass is a code. Another example is the traffic light. What are my S and T for the traffic light? Coding normally two informations. Can I go? Should I be careful? And should I stop? So my S will be go, be careful, and stop, right? And my T will be the set of colors that correspond to those. So green, orange, and red. Okay?
It's yellow.
Well, okay, you say yellow, we say orange. I don't remember. No, we say what?
Don't remember.
It is yellow. Trust me.
And because it's a map that associates to each one of these information the corresponding color. Another example is, an older example is the Morse code. Have you heard about that? So the Morse code used sometimes they go in the Morse code in communication is a code that associates to each letter a sequence of dots and dashes. For example, A is encoding into a dot and a dash, B is encoding in a dash and 3 dots. This depends then on how frequent they appear in the word. Nowadays, we are more used to another kind of code in, for example, in information theory, which is ASCII code. Probably you have heard about that. And this ASCII code associates to each letter, uppercase A, a number between 0 and 127. So 65, this is a convention, 66, and then this is transformed into binary representation. Another example, and I want to turn this on now. Okay, so the barcode. Okay, so you see here associates uniquely to a kind of product. Okay, and then there is another code here that associates to this number the corresponding sequence of bars. Okay, so these are another example of code. Okay, so now we have encoded our information. What is the next step? The next step is to transmit that information, to store that information, right? So in this process there can be some mistakes. For example, imagine that I'm calling, I want to book an airplane ticket, and I have to give my last name. Probably there is N and M, and spelling it, the other recipient will get it wrong, will understand an M for an N or vice versa, or things like that. Or imagine that you go to the supermarket and the scan doesn't work, and then the person behind the cash desk will have to type the number. What happens if she's wrong or he's wrong on that number? You will buy probably a television instead of a lemon, so you don't want that to happen, right? So that's why, in coding theory, we're interested in building codes that are actually able to detect, or even better, to correct information. So let me give, also about this, you really, in your everyday life, you meet with code that are able to detect or to correct information. So, but probably actually, the first example, I don't know how much actually, but let me give this. So this is the NATO, NATO, I don't know how you pronounce, is the NATO alphabet, which is used for communication for example, between pilots. So imagine that a pilot has to transmit the code A, B, C, then you will say Alpha, Bravo, and Charlie. So in this case, for example, there is no confusion between M and N, because we will say Mike or November. And this is something which is international. And the fact of giving a complete word instead of a letter, that means that the person is adding redundancy. An information that you don't need, but if you need in case there is noise. Okay, so the next example of a detecting code is, so the barcode, okay? So this is a can of a tomato sauce. Here you have, this is a 12-digit code, but I'm hiding the last one. Because the last digit is what is called a checksum digit, okay? And is constructed from the previous ones. So actually, I think that I will not have time, so I'm probably skipping this. But there is a way of actually computing this last digit, that in this case is 4. And this digit can tell you if the code you have inserted is correct, or probably, you didn't do too many mistakes. With this check digit, you can recover 100% of mistype of numbers and also 89% of transposition. Okay? So there is just a few cases that do not work. And also the credit cards. Credit cards, I cannot show mine, otherwise. And that is a more complicated example of this, and there is also a check digit sum that is constructed from the previous one. And probably I thought that I would have a more younger audience, but not saying that you're old, but you know what is a CD-ROM, right? So a CD-ROM, this is not a microscope, but the idea is that the information here is encoded into a single spiral, okay? And if you look at that with a microscope will look something like that. There are flat areas and bumps, and then a laser will interpret, for example, flat areas like zeros and bumps like 1. And when there is two dust, it happens that some of these flat areas will look like bumps, and that's why sometimes you're not able to read your CD, so you just do like that and then it works. And actually, sometimes you say, oh, my CD as a scratch will not work anymore. But if the scratch is not too big, like it is 2.4 millimeters, then actually there is an error correction code that will allow you to recover, actually to read your CD. So, and this is another example. And then probably, can you normally in a class you don't use phone, but I would like to take your phone now and try to read this code. This is a QR code. QR code means quick.
You need one of these
Here's
QR.
your birthday.
Oh,
Happy birthday.
yes! It's my birthday! Okay, so
It's my birthday.
So,
I'm glad I did.
so there is written in this code, Happy Birthday, Mariam, with a cake at the end. And I want to show you that it's also an error correction code, because if we change some piece of information, can you tell me if you're still able to read it?
Yep.
Okay,
My
let's
phone's not
try
picking
something
up on
else.
it. I wasn't doing it.
Wait,
Oh my god.
what is that? Oh,
Oh, wow.
I'm getting it, okay.
Shoot.
Look at that.
Are you still able to read it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Really?
No, my phone's QR code thing is malfunctioning.
Are you still able to
I
read
think we
it?
get it.
Oh my god.
No. Okay, so if you this QR code can correct up to 30% of lost informations, and you have several levels of security of corrections, low, high. Is a high correction code, and the last two examples of QR code and CD-ROM, they are based on what are called reedolomon code that are completely constructed through math. These are basically polynomials over finite field. Polynomials. So you use polynomials over finite field in order to construct those. So if you ever wonder why we study polynomials over finite fields, that's one reason. Okay, so in the last 10 minutes that I have, we're going to slowly go back to our game. So these reed-Solomon codes are examples of what are called linear codes, because they're based, they have a particular structure, which is the structure of a subspace of a vector space. Linear codes. And we are going to discuss only the binary case, so when our digits are 0, 1. So, okay, the basic idea, I have my message here with, okay, let me do like that. The basic idea is that you have here your message that has m bits, and then we are going, in order to be able to correct or detect errors, we are going to add some bits here, and we are going to obtain a longer code of length n, and this part, so this information that I wouldn't need is called redundancy. Okay. So now, whenever you have a linear code, so I'm the binary case, this is the definition is this is a subspace of a vector space, of the vector space, the vector space. F2, okay, F2 is just 0, 1, okay, to the n. Okay, so a sequence of n bits. And the fact of being a subspace allows us that whenever you have two words, let's say, their sum keeps staying in in your linear code. Okay? This is an example you will see of linear code. If you add two, okay, they didn't write all that, but if you sum the corresponding words to two of these characters, you will find another character that is in the game. And for linear codes, you normally can associate three parameters. One is the length, n. So it's the total length of your word. One is k, which is the dimension. So this is a subspace, so it has a dimension. And the last one, so n minus, okay, let me call this k actually, it's the same. N minus k is actually your redundancy. And then the last one is the distance. Basically, the fact of adding this redundancy, we want to add the redundancy in order to increase the distance between our characters, because that distance is what will allow us to recover, to correct the mistake, or at least detect the mistake. And so I'll just define this distance. Basically, here you will have, your words will have n digits. So this is my vector A, and this is my vector B. And the distance between these two numbers, which is called Hamming distance, is the cardinality, is the number of elements for which they differ. So it's the number of indices I such that AI is different from BI. For example, these two characters, they have a difference of 4 because they differ from this, in these 4 digits. And then you define the distance of your code to be the minimum of this distance. Minimum for A different from B of the distance of A and B. Okay. So the fact that there is this distance that verifies the triangular inequality and etc. will make this vector space actually to be a metric space. And so now let's go back to our game and let's try to understand which are our parameters. So I will say you can easily check that this is a linear code. In the way we constructed that, it is a linear code. So, what are my parameters? What is my n? 7, right. It's the length, or with all the other questions. What is my k? Sorry, k.
4.
K is 4, you can actually exhibit a basis for that, or this comes from the fact that there are 16 characters, 2, 4. And what is the distance? This is what is the distance?
Distance is 2.
Oh, can you show me 2 characters that have distance 2? Well, you will not be able, so I will not let you finish. This distance is 3. And actually, for example, I think that these two, they differ by 3, because they differ from being one sad, one happy, the flower, and the color, and that's it. And you cannot do better, so you cannot find characters that are a distance less than 3. And so what happens now? Which character did you choose at the beginning? You choose Nathan, okay? But you gave me, so Nathan is 1, 0, 0, 0, and then, okay, I raised the order. Yellow, so it's yellow, he has glasses, and he doesn't have mustaches because he's too young. And, but you return another code, you return 0, no, sorry, you return, one is what? One is hat, so hat say 0. No, this is mine, sorry. So half you say yes, bow tie you say no, flower you say no, sad you say no, yellow you say yes, glasses you say no, and the mustache you say no. So by lying one time, you return to me a code that has this, a word that has distance 1. But every other character has distance at least 3. So if you consider, you know, here the ball, actually, what happens is that this is the closest, Nathan is the closest character to that. So somehow, lying in this case is like a metaphor for an error, a mistake that you can have in communication. And what you have to retain is that by adding redundancy, you increase distance between characters so that if you have something which is not too far away from your character, you can actually recover the mistake and correct it. And so now that you know all this, you can challenge your friend, you can construct your own guess who, liar guess who, and you can surprise your friend.